Travis from Woodman Classics. Welcome to my game room. I like to not only collect games, but kind of like displays and other just like historical things you don't see very often. That kind of tells the story of just why some of these games are important or significant to us. You know, have a couple of like Pepsi displays here. You know, love Yoshi with antlers. I think they need to revisit that at Nintendo. And then moving over into the first case here, I've got most of just my SNES CIB here, some Sega CD, Sega Saturn, and PS1 stuff at the bottom. I also have, again, like I spoke about, like one of a kind, or not one of a kind, but rare pieces like this Mega Man Soccer Ball that was only given out to employees at Capcom who worked on Mega Man Soccer. And that was actually a gift from my wife. It's probably one of the best gifts I've ever received. I thought this was kind of interesting too. Like occasionally you'll see VidPro cards, which if you're not aware what a VidPro card is, like you'd be at Toys R Us, this would be on the wall, you'd flip it up and see what the game was, and then underneath that there'd be like a little form that you took to the counter and paid for it. But you know, you don't see those very often, but what you never see is a sealed pack of VidPro cards. I honestly didn't even know this is how these were packaged from Nintendo or VidPro itself.
Now these two cases here, tell me about these cases. Are they OGs or are they
Yeah, so these are pretty standard size cases that you can buy at most display fixture stores, and I just happened to come across these two display signs from a friend of mine, but it's no surprise that they fit a standard size display cabinet because, you know, in a retail setting, that's what they would have been. I've got some Game Boy, Master System, Sega Genesis 64, Vectrex with, I don't know, it's probably like a quarter of the games that existed on that console. You know, here's a very rare Star Fox 64 pin that was given out to people who were part of a contest. Adventurers Club Nintendo pin, just very, you know, obscure kind of things. Here's a random pre-alpha toy show copy of Aiden Chronicles, which is not a very good game on 64, but it's still very cool to see.
Also, another thing that caught my eye are those Sonic gloves on the next shelf there.
Yeah, I have I don't know, kind of an affliction for gamer merchandise, whether it be shirts or hats, or in this case, gloves. Collecting games and you like to play them, you have to have the proper hardware to play them on. I'm of the mindset that you want to play them on the hardware they were designed on. So I have two PVMs here. I'll start with this one. This one comes from my favorite model of Sony PVMs. This is a 3230, which is very sought after. It has this feature where these buttons aren't there, but then they appear when you hit the control panel. This particular model line, which is a 2030, a 2530, and a 3230, which that first number just indicates the size. This is what Nintendo had in their offices when they would design games for Super Nintendo. So this is how they were intended to look. This is what they were designed on, and this is what they look best on.
Wow.
Continuing over here is probably what I'm most invested in right now as far as collecting. Currently going for a full set of complete in box NES games, but not just your licensed game. This is unlicensed, licensed, 5-screw, 3-screw. In certain cases, I'm collecting like variants, mostly just like notable ones like Castlevania 3. You know, right here you have a first print, which is like Win a Trip to Transylvania, essentially, which I don't think went over very well with the contest winners, honestly, from what I remember. But something like this, you don't see very often, which is a extremely good condition hang tab on punch box.
Wow.
For some reason, Bandai games are just impossible to find with a good hang tab unpunched and just not absolutely wrecked condition. And speaking about more displays, you know, this lovely full-size Mike Tyson's Punch-Out display, which is definitely.
That's amazing. Your NES collection, to say the least, is very impressive, my friend.
I appreciate it. I still got a ways to go, but it's like I've definitely made a lot of progress in the last year. I think my current count is around 790 out of 923.
Wow.
I think is what the number is. But
Wow. Are those boxed Game & Watches I see there?
yeah, those are actually brand new as well. And they were never sealed. You can only tell they were brand new by the batteries inside. The boxes are still sealed as well. So this is a little wind-up link. So
Oh, dude, I love it.
yeah, he walks. Particularly, I won't open it up because I know people watching can't appreciate the smell of this Game Boy. But let me tell you. When I bought this on eBay like a decade or more ago, and I got it, and the overwhelming smell of just freshly injection molded plastic of the Game Boy was overwhelming, and so I could tell this was basically never used ever. And this was something that my brother and I got when it came out as a birthday present. I actually still have the VHS of us getting it.
That's awesome.
For a birthday, but yeah, so this one particular is pretty special. I was playing Bucky O'Hare recently, and I had to get the shirt. Our friend over at Jared at Retro Gaming Pandemic had talked about acquiring one of those recently, and I ended up finding one.
Nice.
That was new old stock as well. But some things that people don't even know exist.
Yeah.
This is before Nintendo Power. This is the Nintendo Fun Club, and these are really hard to find in good condition.
So what's in the closet, man?
Oh, so just a bunch of, there's strategy guys, some Nintendo Powers, and then a ton of just like retro toys that I'm not even a toy collector. I've just acquired them over time. Got like a bunch of super rare Garbage Pail Kid cards right there. But then up here we've got these like super rare Magic Johnson Converse shoes that were actually used for Nintendo Power Issue 3. And then this is probably some of my more favorite things that I've got recently is I've really gotten into the Nintendo Power World Championship stuff. Here's a unused certificate. I got this from Curtis over at Pixel Game Squad. I also acquired this. This is like an official rule thing that went to one of the events in New York or New Jersey. This is a letter directly to one of the contenders who actually won his region in his age group up in Portland and competed in the actual, main championship that was in LA. A store display of an R-Wing for Star Fox 64. I recently acquired a bunch of like display stuff for Star Fox 64, so I have the giant oversized display only box. I've got the countertop display. I've got the official poster up here as well. This one is just super special. You don't see very often, especially in this kind of condition. I love the holographic nature of these, and it's just so cool, and they even carried it into kind of what I pointed out before. It's like, this is also holographic as well.
I love that.
So,
to what you are arguably known for, and what I would say is the main event of this game room tour. So tell us what we're looking at here.
So this is every Turbografx game and Turbo CD game, fully complete or sealed. And so basically what I mean by complete is that it has to be in its outer box as well, because you can have the cue cards typically come in either a little CD case or a little vacuum formed tray, and the hardest piece to find is the outer box. And so I do have some sealed games, like I've got Splatterhouse sealed, but of course I have a CIB of it as well. But Turbografx especially, just it really stuck out to me when I first started really getting into like full set collecting and just collecting in general, because it was a system that I grew up kind of in a smaller area, and so I remember going to Toys R Us with my brother, and we had $50 to spend on a new game that was our hard-earned money, and we got there, didn't see a game that we wanted, But as we were leaving, we saw a Turbografx system that was on clearance that had been discontinued. It came with Keith Courage, and it was $25 brand new.
Nice.
At Toys R Us. And so we bought that, loved it, but I never saw another Turbografx game ever in my life until, later as an adult. I was like, I really want to seek out the games that were good on this console. And I started acquiring some here and there, and I did really like, the boxed of it. Like I've always been someone who wants a complete copy of something, no matter what. And so I slowly started inching towards that, and then once I acquired Magical Chase CIB, which unfortunately I don't have here because I sent it off to get graded recently, but in its place I have what's probably even more rare than the game itself is a VidPro card of the game. Because
more rare than the game itself, huh?
Yeah, because most people thought that this was you could only buy it through Turbo Play magazine, and so, but this proves it did have a retail release. But yeah, very hard to come by VidPro card. But I think some of the hardest things to acquire is some of the promotional items. And so there's a sealed Nerf ball, there's coffee mugs for Legendary Axe 2, there's this incredibly radical hat right here, which you just never see. I mean, I will say too that I acquired most of my rarest items from a good friend named Jeff. He goes by Samurai Ghost on Instagram. He was one of the biggest collectors, to my knowledge, of Turbografx, and he decided, he's the one that I bought that Magical Chase from, and the VidPro card, and pretty much most of the rarest stuff in this cabinet. But we kind of found each other, and he decided that I was the person to kind of bear the Turbo torch from him, and I'm glad that I did. I'm more than happy to do it because I have no plans on parting with any of this stuff ever. Like it needs to stay together. This piece is just insanely significant to me because it's one of a kind. Again, this came from Chris. This is his handwriting on the actual board itself, but this is the prototype of Magical Chase before the game was actually released.
Wow.
I've got all the shirts. There's a Bonk shirt, there's a Devil's Crush shirt, the Legendary Axe 2 shirt, the Bloody Wolf shirt. This one's probably more special though. This is a employee only Turbografx polo that in one of the Turbo Play magazines you can see Chris wearing this at one of their events.
That's awesome.
This is probably my favorite piece of clothing that I own. This is from the same Chris guy. You got Airzonk embroidered on the front. You've got Bonk on the sleeve.
Nice.
And of course you got the Turbografx on the back. So this one actually is one of a kind. There's one similar, but it has a girl's name chain stitched on the front there. And I believe Pat, the NES Punk, if he still owns it, he's the one who that owned it recently. But this is just a really cool jacket. Yeah. Again, you can see him wearing this in one of the magazines in the events. And so I just love seeing these one-of-a-kind items that then have representation in, something like that. So it's like almost setting it in stone where it's like permanently known, This is one of the best communities I've ever been a part of. Like going to these conventions, meeting these YouTubers, meeting these just people who have like influenced this community for decades, and just video games is just forever going to continue to increase as far as like the market itself. Not like retro games, I just mean like modern games. And so to me, this history of and why these things are significant that has led to this like multi-billion and probably even trillion-dollar industry soon is just insane to me.
Yep, that was beautifully said, man. Beautifully said.